When World War II started December 7, 1941, I was really very, very excited and energized. I was really fired up about, I wanted to join the Navy. And I wanted to fly the F-4U Corsair, which was at that time one of the hottest planes. I don't know if you know, it inverted gull wing. It was a fighter plane. And in fact, that's why I joined the Navy.
Well, I wanted to go in the Navy rather than any of the other branches of service. And because grew up on Pewaukee Lake and done everything on the water, the boating and everything that was out there. So it just seemed natural to go into the Navy rather than the Army.
What you hear or learn beforehand doesn't tell the whole story. But of course, the military has its story, and then you learn to adapt to it. But it wasn't something that upset me. It was just something I learned to live with.
Well, it was really very simple Army rules, and so there's nothing much to change. Everything else went that way. I was an officer, and I did as I was told. That's how things were.
You learn how to keep your mouth shut, how to follow orders, how not to complain, and just do your job.
And then you have to train them how to march and give them all the directions. Then we have classes and all about taking rifles apart, taking machine guns apart.
All I can tell you, you obey the orders and you come out all right. Anything else, if you disobeyed them, you were in trouble.
Yeah, I was informed when I got to Great Lakes, they had a hot dog petty officer standing on a picnic table, and he said, he said, there's two ways you do things, your way and the Navy way, and now you're going to do it the Navy way, and that was it.
Well, I think that the whole thing is different when you go into service. For one thing, you're washing your clothes every day, and it's not through with a wash machine or anything like that. You scrub them by hand, and then you hang them up to dry. And they used I think they didn't use clothespins then. They used a little piece of rope. I forget what they called it. But you tied your clothes to the clothesline with a square knot. Everything had square knots in it.
We got an opening thing in the morning, and then we'd work all day long on activities we put together. We planned them so that we had activities every day, and so we gave them a day a week off to do their own personal things, and so it was a very straightforward approach.
Well, yeah, challenge was just staying alive and making sure that you're looking after your buddy, because that was the number one important thing. You never thought about yourself. You thought about, is my buddy all right? Is he okay?
Yes. I'm sitting there at the desk, and along comes these fishermen, and they take hand grenades and they put them on my table. And where did you get these from? From the water. I said, holy man, put them back on my Jeep. We're going to take them back down to the water and blow them up. We didn't want no hand grenades around there at all. So that was an experience I'll never forget, because if they were alive, we wouldn't be here.
Some guy would save another guy somehow or another. Everybody would come around and give him big hugs and whatnot, These great big Marines with 250 pounds and hug him,
But one medal that I'm very proud of is the Presidential Unit Citation, which is this middle one right here. And the 27th Marines is a regiment, and combat ready, our regiment was about 3,000. So 3,000 Marines from the 27th Regiment hit Iwo Jima, and there was only 500 of us left that island. So the President of the United States, seeing what the 27 Marines lost in that battle issued us the presidential citation. And I think that's much better than singling out individuals and saying, you know, well, here you did this and here you did that, etc. And to honor a whole unit for what they did, I think is much better than individual. As a matter of fact, 1/3 of all the casualties in World War II happened on Iwo Jima. 24 medals of honors was given out on Iwo Jima, more than any other battle in World War II. 7 of those Medal of Honors were given to Marines that fell on hand grenades in a foxhole to save their buddies. So the philosophy, the core of the Marine Corps was to watch out for your buddies.
Well, in the medical field, there's a lot of opportunities to help your fellow man or woman, and that makes you proud that you can serve in that way. But also in other ways, as you're working with a total team, whether you're with medics or not, you could be on the flight line doing your job, but everybody learned to cooperate and work as a team.
We were at a Marine Corps reunion, and I really didn't know anybody. It was an entire battalion that I was in, and I didn't know a soul. And it was a room about like this, and there were a couple hundred guys in there, and one guy way across the room kept looking at me, and I didn't recognize him at all. Well, after all, it's 50 years after the fact, you know, but somehow he was trying to remember me. And suddenly he broke loose and he got about as far as that camera, and tears started coming out of his eyes. And he walked up and he gave me a big bear hug. He told me I'd saved his life. That was the most inspiring moment, something I will remember all my life.
Oh, I had some very good commanders and lieutenants and that, some very good. I was in the 351st Infantry Division, and they were some very good, well-known soldiers, and a lot of good master sergeants also.
Well, you have great respect for the captain of the ship because he's responsible for everything. Anything goes wrong, it's the captain gets blamed for it. And so you have a pretty good working relationship with the captain of the crew. There's most of the officers were really real good.
For whatever reason, I've always been a very curious person, and I always wanted to somehow learn. And so I had some good superior officers who encouraged me, and I advanced in rank and I became a non-commissioned officer.
Well, you know, the country had been involved in a war for many, many years, starting with World War II more specifically. And here World War II is coming to a close theoretically, and all of a sudden now we got problems in Korea. And the country as a whole, I think, was tired of war. And so when you were on leave or came home or after you did your duty, people didn't necessarily throw out their arms to welcome you back. You know, some did, some did not. So in my case, when I was discharged, I ended up hanging my uniform in a closet and tried to adapt to my new way of life.
I adjusted pretty well. However, I did have that post-traumatic stress syndrome for a while. But for some reason, when I went on the honor flight, all that feeling left me. And now I can talk about any detail you can imagine. Before, I couldn't talk about anything. So I kept it all inside. But now it doesn't bother me to talk about it. Sometimes I'll choke up a little bit, but most times I can handle it very well.
It was the greatest thing is we marched. I was right ahead of all the veterans I was with. And the people, 5:30 in the morning, they were lined up on both sides of the street, march through, and everybody's saying, howling, thank you, thank you, thank you. and all of them at their arms, and I ain't exaggerating, I think I shook 600 hands.
Well, I am in an assisted living, and there's a lot of young people that work in there, and I always encourage them to think about going in the military, especially today, because there's so many things available for females to do, and you can get your education through the government with a full, whatever your rank is, you get your full pay, and they'll pay your college education. And if they want to be a nurse or a pilot or something, they can go to school for that and get paid by the government. So that I always encourage that. Plus, I like the military, so it's not hard for me to talk nice about it.
I believe the training that I was given in the military certainly gave me an advantage in the civilian life in many instances.
Oh, I think I'm able to handle problems better because the problems now are so minuscule compared to those problems. I mean, sure, I worry about this or that or the other, but it doesn't dig at me or anything like that.
Honor, courage, commitment. Those are words that stick with us our whole life.
I'm a member of the United States, and that's part of my responsibility.
So you didn't have any doubts or second thoughts at all?
No. That's part of being an American.